Hey, it's Seaweed Jack here, and today we're going to be going through the Leyndell Catacombs. Now, the audio is going to be missing from the gameplay because it got massively corrupted, long story short, so instead we're swapping in some of the Ludwig and Schlatt pre-recorded copyright-free music just so that it's not dead silent whenever I'm not talking your ear off. Now, you're going to start in the Subterranean Catacombs, which you find, at least for me, from Leyndell, Capital of Ash, by just finding the open sewer grate, taking a couple quick, careful jumps down, and jumping across to a balcony, where you'll also find the Crimson Medallion +2 to vastly boost your health. Then you'll find a Site of Grace, and that's where this whole thing kicks off from. Thanks to playing at about 12:30 in the morning, that won't be the only time you see me die. Now then, from this Site of Grace in the Subterranean Shunning-Grounds, which is like basically in a room right below and a little to the side of that balcony where you find the Crimson Amber Medallion +2, you're just gonna follow the path that I'm using. Minus the running down pipes that obviously go nowhere. If you follow this path, the actual, more obviously laid out and correct path, and then get down on the floor right beneath the pipes, that'll get you more towards where you're trying to go. Now, I'm leaving most of my mistakes in as sort of a, hey, don't do this. This one isn't necessarily a bad mistake, or like a costly one, but you are going to waste a little time if you try to sort of spot out a more direct path from this pipe besides just jumping down. There really isn't anything else to do. Now this is what you do want to do. You see these giant crayfish, they're going to be sort of your living and very hostile landmark. Now, I didn't think that second one could hit me from that far away, that's my bad. But essentially, you're going to run past both of these crayfish until you see that crack in the wall on the right. That is going to be how you get into the catacombs themselves. There is going to be a Site of Grace just down here to the right. Now, this path straight ahead and a little to the right is what'll get you into the actual catacombs themselves, but if you're curious like me, you'll end up doubling back and going the other way, and the sort of room layout you'll find at the top of this lift will unfortunately come to look very familiar by the end of this video, because like all catacombs and dungeons in this game, they're built around the zany idea of being a giant fucking loop 1,000,000 times over. Now, with that being said, this particular version of the loop that you get from going this way is going to be a much shorter, sort of diet version of it, and at the end of this path, running around these guys, you could fight them if you want, but like, why bother? This lever will open up a door in that little next passageway, a door in the ceiling actually. It takes fucking forever to open though, so be wary of that. You may have to roll a couple of times. And if you recognize that gate in this hallway, you'll see we're back up in the Subterranean Shunning-Grounds. There isn't really anything too useful to being up here, at least not that I could find in my time here. But it's there if you want to go there. If you're like me, you'll have spotted that little hallway off to the side, and after a quick check to make sure you didn't miss anything obvious in the room, you'll go down it thinking there's a new area. I hate to tell you, it's just the same little pipes and shit that was there before, just a different part of it, up here in the Shunning-Grounds. And honestly, besides some, golden runes and fire grease, there's nothing here worth your time. We're interested in the catacombs, not in the Shunning-Grounds. These pipes and gargoyles won't really get us anywhere. You'll notice I even considered sort of fast traveling back to the site of grace, and honestly I probably should have, but curiosity got the better of me, and so I ended up taking a look around here. Now I am going to leave this footage in because if people want to see these smithing stone locations and fire grease locations, who am I to sort of just rip that out of my own decision? Yeah, this doesn't look right, does it? Well, that's because Twitch hates me. This happens a couple times throughout this video, and I'm sure future videos as well. Thanks, Twitch. But anyway, this time it wasn't so bad. I only lost about a minute of footage. It gets a little worse when it crops up later on, but luckily this time you didn't really miss anything. Getting back into usable footage, you see me finally making the decision that there's nothing worth it in this area, and I might as well just go back to the site of grace. I probably could have saved myself a couple seconds by just fast traveling, but I felt like dramatically hurling myself off of the pipes. So sue me. Anyway, now we're gonna get into the actual catacombs themselves, and like most catacombs, the boss door is right by the front, but, as you'll see in a moment, like any other catacomb, it's locked by some contraption. Which means get ready for loops upon loops upon loops of the same 3 rooms. Now, it's gonna drive you a little mad, but that's okay. I'm here to talk you through it. I don't know why I bother hitting this. All these conspicuous off-color walls that seem like they should be really obvious secret entrances are never actually anything at all. These guys aren't too much of a problem, but if you go into it sort of heavily underestimating them like I did, and also just kind of playing a bit sloppy, they might give you a little bit of trouble. As you can see, there are a decent amount of golden runes strewn about the catacombs, which is nice, but honestly when you get to the sort of high-level post-endgame state that I'm in by the time I actually bothered to come here, they don't really mean a whole lot. Although the glow warts for spirit upgrades are honestly a much bigger perk. And here's another mistake, not really worth making. I mistook those large dark doors for large dark boss doors like those found at the entrance to the Catacombs. And instead, I just kinda got ambushed and shit-rocked by these two butt-ugly trolls. I swear I'm normally good at this game. I've beaten the Elden Beast, I've beaten Malenia. I just can't beat these stupid mazes. I'm like a little rat trapped in a cage, just running around in circles while scientists scribble notes. However, this is going to be the run where we get through to the end of the Catacombs and through the boss fight at the end. So if you haven't paid any attention at all thus far, now's the part where you might want to tune in. The only reason this video isn't just this last attempt is solely because of how quickly we get into corrupted footage. I didn't want to start the video and immediately just hit BAM! Minute of lost footage, bam, minute of lost footage. So, here we are. Now, this sort of church room isn't really too important. This guy is guarding a talisman, but it's really PvP specific. It just reduces damage taken if you get critical hit, which really only happens if another player breaks your poise. I haven't really ever seen an enemy critical hit. So, unless you're expecting to do a lot of co-op or a lot of invasions, this talisman really isn't worth your time. Now, don't get it twisted, I do have Ranni's Dark Moon, but I did the Age of Duskborn ending. I didn't finish Ranni's questline until after I'd already beaten the Elden Beast. But yeah, that's the Crucible Scale Talisman. Now, as I said, I and many others won't really have any use for it, but if you are a more PvP-centric player, if that's something you enjoy, it might really come in handy. That being said, now we can catch a ride back down atop this flame-shooting pillar to get back into the main loop of the Catacombs, the reward at the end of which is the Lord of Blood's Exaltation Talisman, which for around 20 seconds or so boosts your damage after blood loss occurs around you, which is going to be really good if, like me, you use, obviously bleed weapons. Especially if, again, like me, you power stance with 2 weapons that deal bleed. Now, if you see that glove wart there, you'll notice another key thing to keep in mind when running through these loop-based catacombs and dungeons, which is new items. If you see items that you haven't picked up before, obviously it means you're in a new room, you're in a new area, not one you've already trudged through, which is a good sign. If you haven't seen any new items in a while, it's a good idea to retrace your steps, figure out where you might have gone wrong, and try to sort of get back into the swing of things. Now, if you've been sort of following along to the best of your ability to the path taken in this video, that shouldn't happen to you, because it does seem to be a pretty straightforward loop through, so as long as you keep running the same way I'm running, and hopefully not getting distracted by these little side fights as much as I do, you shouldn't have any trouble getting lost. Messages are also going to help you. If you find a message in one of these loop rooms, and then you get to another loop of the same room, you'll either see the same message and be in the exact same room, in which case you've done something terribly wrong, or you won't see the message and you'll know you're making forward progress. In my case, the loops were starting to drive me mad a little bit, so both out of frustration and checking against logic for hidden walls or hidden doorways, I just kinda had to go around smacking shit for a couple of seconds. Looks like I'm not the only one who was going a little insane by this point. This window here is going to be the first major sign that you're almost there. And I'm hitting the freeze frame again, because this next minute of footage, just like the last times I've frozen the frame, is completely unusable. So to anyone who was hoping to use this as a guide to the Leyndell Catacombs, I'm sorry, I was hoping it would be too. At any rate, if you've been following along as best as you can, you'll have finally broken the loop, arriving at an L-shaped staircase guarded by a little gargoyle. At the end of this L-shaped staircase is a ladder descending. You're going to want to head right down there. Now, from here, all you gotta do is just go straight ahead, and I know it looks like another one of the loop rooms from before, but the difference is, in this one, once I stop doubling back and actually go in, you'll finally find the lever that unlocks the boss door, and a nice little item. With the boss doors open, you're almost done. The boss room is actually right around here. You're just going to drop down and follow this hallway until it turns. Taking the turn with it, you're going to want to go left through the boss doors. You'll have noticed you've gotten right back to the entrance of the catacombs. And here's the boss fog. Now, because I never bothered going through here when the area was still Leyndell Royal Capital and not Leyndell Ashen Capital, I'm a little over level 200 here, and with little dungeon bosses like this, I sort of assume they're gonna be too weak, so what I decided I would do here is just sort of dodge and avoid, maybe help out with the little minions a little bit, but largely the boss fight itself I wanted to leave to my summon, just because otherwise it would be over too quickly, and you guys wouldn't really get much of a chance to see this guy's moveset. Assuming you had access to practically any summon in the game, the only one worth using besides a Mimic tier is going to be Black Knife Tiche. Those are the only two summons that you should be using once you've got one or both of them. Because, I mean, look at how this guy gets shredded. Unfortunately, I can't let Tiche have all the fun because the boss does decide to target me again towards the very end. I considered backing back out, but once I missed that incredibly obvious charged heavy, I had to get the final hit because my pride was on the line. Now with that, you'll have gotten the Lord of Blood's Exaltation Talisman, which is the last bit of loot here in the Catacombs. Despite me looking around a little bit, you're just going to want to take this teleport back to the entrance. And with that, the Leyndell Catacombs are completed. Congratulations, you made it. Let's take a look at the loot we got. We're going to move past my build for now to get into the new stuff you get from this dungeon, starting with the Lord of Blood's Exaltation. If you use a bleed build, you need this. Moving on to the Crimson Amber Medallion +2 from the entrance to the Shunning-Grounds right before the start of the video, although I do explain how to get it. And then we're going to move on down. You can see me trying to find it, but here's the PvP-based critical hit damage negation talisman. That's probably going to be the least important thing you can pick up here, though. Now, to look at it again from a Site of Grace perspective, you're going to go from the Leyndell Capital of Ash to the Underground Roadside, and finally to the Leyndell Catacombs. Now, if you were going to do this from while it was still Leyndell Royal Capital and not Ashen Capital, you'd probably want to start at the Avenue Balcony Site of Grace. Anyway, with that, that's the walkthrough concluded. If you want to see more Elden Ring content or gaming content in general, please like and subscribe.